Hello. This is your boy, Tsepan John, Emmanuel Molakdedi, and I'm back with another episode. I hope you guys have been doing well. I hope that everything in your lives has been going according to plan. And if it isn't, or if it hasn't, I just want to encourage you. As we often say, it's the journey and not the destination. But hearing such things sometimes seems like, it becomes a bit of a cliche, because it's hard to actually see the light when you are surrounded by darkness. But one thing that I feel like is vital within the concept of persevering, despite the circumstances around you, is knowing that the light is there, despite you not having evidence of it, not being able to see it, not being able to feel it. Having the belief, the faith that light is there and you will get through certain situations is one thing that I feel like is very ideal. One thing that if you hold close to your heart will get you through whatever it is you're going through. So I'm back again with another episode. I've had a wild week. It has been very hectic with our second round of tests going around, case competitions, and just a lot of personal things on my side popping up. But I'm here yet again to kind of just take my time to share with you guys, put my thoughts and my opinions out there, just to kind of extrapolate on certain things. So in today's episode, I think I want to deal with self, but self from a perspective of our ideal self versus our current self. So often it is easy for us as individuals to kind of have this goal or this ideal self that we want to see. This ideal self might have certain characteristics. They might have achieved certain goals that we want to achieve in our current moment. And some of these goals, seem out of reach at times when you look at the current state of yourself. But I feel like there's this ideal self, per se, that we tend to imagine and we tend to kind of always contact through our minds. We kind of see ourselves in different situations, having attained certain goals that we want to attain right now. And often I feel like there's this huge disparity between our ideal self and our constant self. And I know that most of the time when we talk about an ideal self, we talk about maybe someone who is far off in the future. But I feel like the aim or the position of that future self is kind of subjective depending to what we're actually thinking about. And I feel like this concept in its own kind of ties in well within long-term goals and short-term goals. This is our ideal self. They are this better version of ourselves, this version that we want to actually transform into as time kind of goes on. Then on the other hand, we have this version of ourselves that I would like to call the current self. This is the self that kind of doesn't have everything in check. This is the version of ourselves that has certain vices we need to get rid of, that hasn't met the goals that we want to meet, and also has to do a lot of work in order to get to the ideal self. So I think that one thing that has helped me in regards to my life in general is having the awareness that your ideal self depends on your current self. Like without your current version of self, you could never get to your ideal self, which is a concept that sounds quite counterintuitive, because most of the time you're like, how could an imperfect version of someone kind of carry them to that point where they are more of the version of themselves that they want. And I think it's a beautiful concept in a way, because often in life we kind of procrastinate. We beat ourselves down so many times because of maybe our vices or not being perfect or not reaching the mark, without actually doing this in a more constructive way. I feel like one thing that we need to learn, I would say, as the youth, as humans in general, is that your future version of yourself is still yourself. It's a better version of your current self, and could have never been there without you actually taking time and doing certain things to remove the things that have been holding you back, and to propel yourself to actually becoming that better version of yourself. This might have to do with your financial goals, family goals, relationships, and educational goals. But one thing that I feel is not kind of shared often enough is how your imperfect self in its state is powerful enough to bring you to a better version of yourself. But despite what I'm saying right now, there are steps you need to take in order to kind of put yourself in the best position. There are steps you need to kind of lay off your heavy burdens with respect to certain habits. There are certain steps you need to do to actually obtain or reinforce good habits. And it is something that I often say requires a lot of energy, a lot of self-control, a lot of intentionality from our sides. And most of the time, we just do not have the energy to actually sit down and do this, because like I said in our last episode, or in a few episodes ago, if you're given the option to actually sit down and do self-improvement or to watch a Netflix video, you're probably going to do the easier thing, which is after a long day, you're probably going to choose to do to watch Netflix show. And I think generally the main thing that could help us out, and the main thing that helps me out often, is to not look at certain things as work, but rather look at them as investing in yourself. Look at it as investing in the current version of yourself and bettering your life. I know that usually looking far off at a goal that seems nearly impossible to accomplish can be quite intimidating. So one approach that has helped me far greatly in my academics has always been breaking down certain goals and making sure that I try to focus and imagine myself in a good light, and also imagine what I need to do on the daily basis, what I need to do with respect to the tasks that will actually build me up. So there is power within the current version of ourselves, and this power can never be tapped into if we think that our current self is insufficient, because our current self is sufficient and not perfect. So that's one thing I would like to say. If you're ever going to get anything from this recording, I would say that your current self is sufficient but imperfect. And having such a mentality is one thing that will get you through actually working on yourself and get you to a point where you see visible change within your life. I think from a biblical perspective, I have seen times where I've thought that, I don't think it's easy for me to achieve this goal, achieve that goal. But breaking down these goals, seeing maybe a far off version of myself, and actually sitting down with my thoughts, actually analyzing, scrutinizing, I would say the foundation of certain beliefs within my head, I have learned that it is better you make sure that you do not have any internal conflicts within your being. so that when you have external conflicts, when you have all these things that might be happening in your life, you are able to be your best friend and not your enemy. Because we have, like I say, a lot of things that we need to face on the daily basis that can actually wear us down. I think one thing that has made me understand this concept and actually not beat myself down, not condemn myself when I haven't met this futuristic ideal, is to understand that my imperfection is not something that is going to keep me bound in my current self. Self is forever changing and forever growing, and we need to kind of use how self grows with respect to time, with respect to the things you learn, the things you take up, and actually put ourselves in the best situations to grow. I think I have learned to also kind of just lean in on God and know that His grace is made sufficient in my weaknesses, which has been something that has guided me and led me despite maybe opposing thoughts in my head. And I think it's very important to actually be able to overthrow certain thoughts, negative thoughts, overthrow certain I would call them thoughts of doubt, of condemnation, just to make sure that whatever you believe internally is well paved or well established and will actually get you to being that future version of yourself. So yeah, I think this concept in general is very applicable with regards to your goals, my goals in general, with regards to growth in various sectors of our lives. Growth usually is not achieved in one day. Growth sometimes is painful, sometimes it sucks because you don't see immediate results. Sometimes you see the results of other people who might have not put in as much effort as you. And sometimes even after seeing those results, you might try and fix your success equations with respect to certain things, and you might still end up failing. But keeping a good relationship between your current self and your future self is something that I find very important, something that will make you push through the challenges that you face. I hope that this podcast episode was insightful to most of you. I hope that it kind of tackled a lot of things with regards to how you can actually approach thinking about your current self and your future self, and maybe also open you up to being more friendly to yourself, making sure that there is no enemy within. There's that old proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. It is important to make sure that internally you are solid, you are firm, so that when any external factor kind of tries to shake you or move you off balance, you are able to recalibrate and continue with the journey that you've set yourself in. So I hope you guys are blessed. I hope you guys take care. I'll be throwing out another episode tomorrow. My aim has been to throw 2 episodes. Time-wise, I might have messed up this week because, like I said, I had a few things that were very urgent on my end. But I will make sure that by the latest you have the first episode of the week on Tuesday and the second episode on a Thursday. But besides that, I pray that God bless you. I pray that He guides you and leads you. And I pray that you may come to the full understanding of His love, of His opinion and His thoughts regarding you. Because as much as humans, we think that we are insignificant. As much as a person, as a person, you might think that maybe God doesn't know certain things or doesn't think about me. I'd like to say that God always has you in mind, always has these thoughts and these ideas with respect to you and your life, and will always be willing to reach out. So I pray that you may come to the full understanding of your position with Him, what you mean to Him, and fully dive into having great relations with Him. And I know this from my end, that this generally is the main foundation for manifestation in your life, for manifestation in your goals, and in everything that you want. Because if you have a good source, you are bound to overflow. It might take some time for you to actually weed out some things and actually fully form as an individual, but overflowing is a guarantee. So take care on your end, guys. This is your boy Tsapanjwa Malatedi, Emmanuel. Take care.